Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. And I'm sitting here in Hode Farm, this time the Olive Tree Cottage. We're usually in the Wisteria Cottage. We renamed these places colleges instead of cottages because there's so much higher education going on in them. So here we are in Olive Tree College, in between Folkestone and Canterbury in Kent, southeast England. And I'm sitting in a room full of Vaishnavas, serious seekers of the absolute truth, devotees of the Lord. How lucky is that? And I'm about to read the Srimad-Bhagavatam. How lucky is that? Yeah. Our house of bhakti is built upon the cornerstone of gratitude. So we're very lucky because there's not very many people in the world, relatively speaking, who have any idea who they are and what to speak of who's God and what this place is about, how it came into be, etc., etc. So let us count our lucky stars and go on hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam together. The Srimad-Bhagavatam is the Summum Bonum of spiritual literatures. It is the ripened fruit of all the Vedas, and it most lucidly and comprehensively describes the Supreme Absolute Truth. Whereas the rest of the Vedas describe so many aspects of the absolute truth and so many aspects of this material world. But the Supreme Absolute Truth, the source of everything, is only elaborately explained in this Srimad-Bhagavatam. There's 335 chapters in the Bhagavatam, and 90 of those chapters are about Krishna, the supreme form of the Supreme Absolute Truth, the original form and supreme form of the Supreme Absolute Truth. So what can I say? Our fortune knows no bounds, and I welcome all of you out in cyberspace. Thank you for being loyal hearers, and for those of you who don't know, we're up to 1,776 followers who are hearing regularly the Srimad Bhagavatam. Not every day, but we're averaging in between 200 and 500 persons who are, they call them hits, but they're not really hits, they're just views. Let's call them views, that's better than a hit. And so gradually it's expanding. We've been doing this for about 1.5 years, and I was told, there he is, and I was told by Davide, whose Facebook account we're using to record this, that we're, how many chapters? 13 till 50, 40 some chapters away from having recorded the whole Srimad-Bhagavatam like this. Yeah, so this is a monumental attempt. No one has done this before in our movement, or anyone for that matter. Well, Hare Krishna. Nimai Pandit has walked in, the local Pandit has joined us. And who is this?
Is this Vijay?
Oh no.
Oh yes.
Vijay, come over here. Oh, now I see him. Now I can see him. You just gained a little weight since last time.
Here's my eye.
It's the Irish sentiment in you. It's the Irish sentiment in you. Yeah, sit over here. You can move. Yeah. So we have some, not everyone, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including me, old timers from Slow Street that we met many years ago. We've got Lynn from 1989, vintage year, I think we can call it, vintage year. Radharaman, who we met in 1990, and Nimai Pandit, eternal, he's never not been there. And Bijay Govinda, 86, and 87,
up to 95.
and up to 95, yeah. Boy, really good to see you.
Yes.
He wrote me a letter that was the best letter I ever received in my whole life. And that's saying something, because I've received some pretty nice letters. It was a milestone in my Krishna consciousness. So I thank you for that. Okay, without further ado, we're going to hit the road. Toad, we're going to hit the road and go down the road of the history of the universe. Srimad-Bhagavatam. Sanatana Goswami is the senior disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent more time instructing Sanatana Goswami than any other person on the earth. Therefore, he had the broadest. He nicknamed him the Siddhanta Acharya. Someone was the Namacharya, another was the Rasacharya, another was the Prayojanacharya, all these different acharyas. But Sanatana Goswami was the Siddhanta Acharya. He in the instructions to Lord Chaitanya, to Sanatana Goswami from Lord Chaitanya in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it takes up a large section of the book, many chapters, from 22 to 25, I think. Or 20? No, 20 to 25, yeah. So, right after he got that teaching, and then he got the blessing of Lord Chaitanya that he would be able to remember it. Not easy to remember all that. And not only that, he got the empowerment to elaborate on it and to document it according to the revealed scriptures. And the first thing he wrote after that was Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is classic literature, which Prabhupada says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita you must read in order to understand all this properly. And one of the next books he wrote was Sri Krishna Lila Stava, which is a book meant to offer 108 obeisances to the Vrindavan Lila of Krishna. And this, what we're reading just now, I read every night before I read the Srimad-Bhagavatam. I recite this prayer. It's called Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, the glories of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Only 5 verses, but very deep. This helps us to go deep and to understand what we're doing. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprida. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandoditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshak Shadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Marika Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Man Nisadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin atini chochata kada hanamun chagadachin mam prem narit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we reached the 10th canto, which is the whole book is Summum Bonum, so this is the topmost part of the Summum Bonum, the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. 13th chapter, the stealing of the boys and calves by Brahma. And we're starting with chapter 26, text 26. So we're in the middle of it, but I'm sure all of you will just jump right in with both feet. Head first, maybe. Although the inhabitants of Brajabhumi, the cowherd men and cowherd women, previously had more affection for Krishna than for their own children, now, for 1 year, their affection for their own sons continuously increased, for Krishna had now become their sons. There was no limit to the increment of their affection for their sons, who were now Krishna. Every day they found new inspiration for loving their children as much as they loved Krishna. So in Braja, all of the mothers, even though they love their sons, like all mothers do, they love Krishna more. And now that Krishna has expanded himself to foil Brahma's plot to confuse him, and he's gone into the village in the form of all the cowherd boys and all the calves, to the T, every single detail, exactly the same. The mothers couldn't tell it was not their sons. The cows couldn't tell it was not their calves. But their love for their sons grew to the point where it was like Krishna, like they loved Krishna. So they got the opportunity to serve Krishna personally, the same as Mother Yashoda. In this way, Lord Sri Krishna, having himself become the cowherd boys and groups of calves, maintained himself by himself. Thus he continued his pastimes, both in Vrindavan and in the forest, for 1 year. Purport. Everything was Krishna. The calves, the cowherd boys, and their maintainer himself were all Krishna. In other words, Krishna expanded himself in varieties of calves and cowherd boys and continued his pastimes uninterrupted for 1 year. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's expansion is situated in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. Similarly, instead of expanding himself as the Supersoul, he expanded himself as a portion of calves and cowherd boys for 1 continuous year. One day, 5 or 6 nights before the completion of the year, Krishna, tending the calves, entered the forest along with Balaram. Now just mind you, Balaram was not there on the day that Brahma stole the cowherd boys and calves, and Krishna had to expand himself into all the cowherd boys and calves. And last night, Shamaguri, when someone asked why why did Krishna have to maintain it for a whole year? Why couldn't he just maintain it, once and then bewilder Brahma? Well, what first thing? Brahma was not there. He just stepped out of the picture for a few moments, which ended up being a year of hard time. So that's one reason. And the other reason is that in order to keep Balaram from knowing, because Balaram wasn't there on the day that it happened, so he had to keep up the show for Balaram, right? So that's another reason, which I thought was a very profound reason. And now we're coming to the point where Balaram's going to figure it out. Purport. Up to this time, even Balaram was captivated by the bewilderment that covered Brahma. Even Balaram did not know that all of the calves and cowherd boys were expansions of Krishna, or that he himself was also an expansion of Krishna. This was disclosed to Balaram just 5 or 6 days before the completion of the year. Text 29. Thereafter, while pasturing atop Govardhan Hill, the cows looked down to find some green grass and saw their calves pasturing near Vrindavan, not very far away. 30. When the cows saw their own calves from the top of Govardhan Hill, they forgot themselves and their caretakers because of increased affection. And although the path was very rough, they ran toward their calves with great anxiety, each running as if with one pair of legs. Their milk bags full and flowing with milk, their heads and tails raised, their humps moving with their necks, they ran forcefully until they reached their calves to feed them. Purport. Generally, the calves and cows are pastured separately. The elderly men take care of the cows, and the small children see to the calves. This time, however, the cows immediately forgot their position, and as soon as they saw the calves below Govardhan Hill, and they ran with great force, their tails erect and their front and hind legs joined until they reached their calves. Text 31. The cows had given birth to new calves, but while coming down from Govardhan Hill, the cows, because of increased affection for the older calves, allowed the older calves to drink milk from their milk bags, and then began licking the calves' bodies in anxiety, as if wanting to swallow them. If anybody's lived with cows before, you know that when a cow calves, as soon as the calf comes out, the mother just smothers the calf with affection. It's a sight of beauty, thing of beauty to watch, the motherhood of the cow. And after that, whenever they want to milk the cow, they bring the calf there. And then the cow sees the calf and milk starts to flow out of affection. Because then they have to take the calf away, because otherwise this calf will drink all the milk. And it's not just, for many reasons, but one reason is there's always more milk in the cow's udder than the calf can drink. And be allowed to drink it, it gets sick and die. But the cow has to give the milk, otherwise she gets, in pain. The cowherd men, having been unable to check the cows from going to their calves, felt simultaneously ashamed and angry. They traversed the rough road with great difficulty, but when they came down and saw their own sons, they were overwhelmed by great affection. Purport. Everyone was increasing in affection for Krishna. When the cowherd men coming down from the hill saw their own sons, who were no one else than Krishna, their affection increased. 33. At that time, all the thoughts of the cowherd men merged in the mellow of paternal love, which was aroused by the sight of their sons. Experiencing a great attraction, their anger completely disappearing, they lifted their sons embraced them in their arms, and enjoyed the highest pleasure by smelling their sons' heads. Purport. After Brahma stole the original cowherd boys and calves, Krishna expanded himself to become the boys and calves again. Therefore, because the boys were actually Krishna's expansions, the cowherd men were especially attracted to them. At first, the cowherd men who were on top of the hill were angry because of Krishna, the boys were extremely attractive, and therefore the cowherd men immediately came down from the hill with special affection. 34. Thereafter, the elderly cowherd men, having obtained great feeling from embracing their sons, gradually and with great difficulty and reluctance, ceased embracing them and returned to the forest. But as the men remembered their sons, tears began to roll down from their eyes. Purport. In the beginning, the cowherd men were angry that the cows were being attracted by the calves. But when the men came down from the hill, they themselves were attracted by their sons, and therefore the men embraced them. To embrace one's son and smell his head are symptoms of affection. Text 35. Because of an increase of affection, the cows had constant attachment even to those calves that were grown up and had stopped sucking milk from their mothers. When Baladev saw this attachment, he was unable to understand the reason for it. And thus he began to consider as follows. Purport. The cows had younger calves who had started sucking milk from their mothers. And some of the cows had newly given birth, but now because of love, the cows enthusiastically showed their affection for the older calves, which had left off milking. These calves were grown up, but still the mothers wanted to feed them. Therefore Balarama was a little surprised, and he wanted to inquire from Krishna about the reason for their behavior. The mothers were actually more anxious to feed the older calves, although the new calves were present, because the older calves were expansions of Krishna. These surprising events were taking place by the manipulation of Yoga Maya. There are two Mayas working in the direction of Krishna. Mahamaya, the energy of the material world, and Yogamaya, the energy of the spiritual world. These uncommon events were taking place because of the influence of Yogamaya. From the very day on which Brahma stole the calves and boys, Yogamaya acted in such a way that the residents of Vrindavan, including even Lord Balarama, could not understand how Yogamaya was working and causing such uncommon things to happen. But as Yogamaya gradually acted, Balarama in particular was able to understand what was happening, and therefore he inquired from Krishna. So this is very interesting. Once in Vrindavan, there were a group of disciples around Prabhupada. Brahmananda was there, Giriraj Maharaj was there, Guru Kripa was there, a few others. And so Prabhupada asked them the question, who's stronger, Krishna or Balaram? So he went around the room, and wanted everybody's opinion, and everybody said Balaram, because, you hear Balaram's the source of all strength, especially powerful strength. And he got to Giriraj Maharaj, and Giriraj Maharaj said, I think that Balaram is stronger. And Prabhupada raised his eyebrows. He says, oh, why? And he said, well, look on the altar, Balaram's leaning on Krishna. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's right. And this is another instance of the proof that Krishna is, although they're equal in power, in potency, they're different persons at the same time, they're the same person. But Krishna, Balaram couldn't understand what Krishna was doing, even though he's non-different than Krishna. So this is another proof that Krishna's power is greater than Balaram's. Text 36. What is this wonderful phenomenon? The affection of all the inhabitants of Braja, including me, toward these boys and calves is increasing as never before, just like our affection for Lord Krishna, the super soul of all living entities. Purport. This increase of affection was not Maya. Rather, because Krishna had expanded himself as everything, and because the whole life of everyone in Vrindavan was meant for Krishna, the cows, because of affection for Krishna, had more affection for the older calves than for the new calves. And the men increased in their affection for their sons. Balarama was astonished to see all the residents of Vrindavan so affectionate toward their own children, exactly as they had been for Krishna. Similarly, the cows had grown affectionate toward their calves, as much as toward Krishna. Balaram was surprised to see the acts of Yoga Maya. Therefore he inquired from Krishna, what is happening here? What is this mystery? Who is this mystic power? And where does she come from? Is she a demigod or a demoness? She must be the illusory energy of my master, Lord Krishna, for who else can bewilder me? So this is the relationship of Balaram to Krishna. He's Krishna, but he's the first expansion of Krishna who thinks that he's the servant of Krishna. Therefore he is considered to be the original guru. Purport. Balarama was surprised. This extraordinary show of affection, he thought, was something mystical, performed either by the demigods or some wonderful man. Otherwise, how could this wonderful change take place? This Maya might be some Rakshashi Maya, he thought. But how can Rakshashi Maya have any influence over me? This is not possible. Therefore, it must be the Maya of Krishna. He thus concluded that the mystical change must have been caused by Krishna, whom Balaram considered his worshipable personality of Godhead. He thought it was arranged by Krishna, and even I could not check its mystic power. Thus Balaram understood that all these boys and calves were only expansions of Krishna. 38. Thinking in this way, Lord Balaram was able to see, with the eye of transcendental knowledge, that all these calves and Krishna's friends were expansions of the form of Sri Krishna. Purport. Every individual is different. There are even differences between twin brothers. Yet when Krishna expanded himself as the boys and calves, each boy and each calf appeared in its own original feature, with the same individual ways of acting, the same tendencies, the same color, the same dress, and so on. For Krishna manifested himself with all these differences. This was Krishna's opulence. And imagine, when they came back from the forest for a whole year, they come back from the forest and the boys go into their own homes and their parents are exchanging loving exchanges with them and having their household life in the way they normally do. And it's Krishna doing all that, personally. I mean, everything is Krishna, you can say, in the sense that Krishna's energy is transforming into everything in this material world. But this isn't like that. This is actually Krishna personally. 39. Lord Baladev said, O Supreme Controller, these boys are not great demigods as I previously thought, nor are these calves great sages like Narada. Now I can see that you alone are manifesting yourself in all varieties of difference. Although one, you are existing in the different forms of the calves and boys. Please briefly explain this to me. Having thus been requested by Lord Baladev, Krishna explained the whole situation, and Baladev understood it. Purport. Inquiring from Krishna about the actual situation, Lord Balaram said, "My dear Krishna, in the beginning, I thought that all these cows, calves, and cowherd boys were either great sages and saintly persons or demigods. But at the present, it appears that they are actually your expansions. They are all you. You yourself are playing as the calves and cows and boys. What is the mystery of this situation? Where have those other calves and cows and boys gone? And why are you expanding yourself as the cows, calves, and boys? Will you kindly tell me what is the cause?" At the request of Balaram, Krishna briefly explained the whole situation, how the calves and boys were stolen by Brahma, and how he was concealing the incident and expanding himself so that people would not know that the original cows, calves, and boys were missing. So that's another reason why he maintained it for a whole year, so that all his living devotees in Braj wouldn't be completely distraught, to protect their happiness. At the request of Balaram, Krishna explained briefly the whole situation, how the calves and boys were stolen by Brahma, and how he was concealing the incident by expanding himself so that people would not know that the original cows, calves, and boys were missing. Balaram understood, therefore, that this was not Maya, but Krishna's opulence. Krishna has all opulences, and this was but another opulence of Krishna. At first, Lord Balaram said, I thought that these boys and calves were a display of the power of great sages like Narada, but now I see that all these boys and calves are you. After inquiring from Krishna, Lord Balaram understood that Krishna himself had become many. That the Lord can do this is stated in the Brahma Samhita 533, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam. Although he is one, he can expand himself into so many forms. According to the Vedic version, Ekam Bahu Syam, he can expand himself into many thousands and millions, but still remain one. In that sense, everything is spiritual, because everything is an expansion of Krishna. That is, everything is an expansion either of Krishna himself or of his potency. Because the potency is non-different from the potent, the potency and the potent are one. Shakti, Shakti Matayor, Abeda. The Mayavadis, however, say Chit Achit Samanyava. Spirit and matter are one. This is a wrong conception. Spirit, Chit, is different from matter, Achit. As explained by Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita 7:4 and 5. Bhumyarapo nalo bayu kamano buddhir eva cha ahankara itiya me bina prakritir ashtada apareyamitastvanyam prakritim vidime padam jiva bhutam mahabaho yayidam daryate jagat. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. But besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjun, there is a superior energy of mine, which consists of all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. Spirit and matter cannot be made one, for actually they are superior and inferior energies. Yet the Mayavadis, or Advaitavadis, try to make them one. This is wrong. Although spirit and matter ultimately come from the same one source, they cannot be made one. For example, there are many things that come from our bodies, but although they come from the same source, they cannot be made one. So, once on a morning walk, Prabhupada explained this concept. Just think about this. Your nails. You can cut them and there's no feeling. And yet you cut just a fraction of a fraction of an inch next to it. And it can hurt so much you have to put a Band-Aid on or take a pain pill or something, You can't even do something, little thing, because you got this, hangnail or whatever it is. So Prabhupada made this point. They're both coming from the same source, the body, and yet one doesn't have consciousness and the other does. This is how to understand the difference between matter and spirit. Both the energies are coming from Krishna, but by his will, by his magic, yogamaya, by his potency, part of it will be inert and part of it will be conscious. And they're like that. You can't make the nail, like the skin, or the skin like the nail. So I'll read this again. For example, there are many things that come from our bodies, but although they come from the same source, they cannot be made one. We should be careful to note that although the Supreme Source is one, the emanations from this source should be separately regarded as inferior and superior. The difference between the Mayavad and Vaishnava philosophies is that Vaishnava philosophy recognizes this fact. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy therefore is called Achintya Bheda Bheda, simultaneous oneness and difference. For example, fire and heat cannot be separated. For where there is fire, there is heat, and where there is heat, there is fire. Nonetheless, although we cannot touch fire, heat we can tolerate. Therefore, although they are one, they are different. Prabhupada's amazing, isn't it? The way he explains things. Amazing. Text 40. When Lord Brahma returned, after a moment of time had passed according to his own measurement, he saw that although by human measurement a complete year had passed, Lord Krishna, after all that time, was engaged just as before in playing with the boys and calves, who were his expansions. Purport. Lord Brahma had gone away for only a moment of his time, but when he returned, a year of human time had passed. On different planets, the calculation of time is different. To give an example, a man-made satellite may orbit the Earth in an hour and 25 minutes, and thus complete one full day, although a day ordinarily takes 24 hours for those living on the Earth. Therefore, what was but a moment for Brahma was 1 year on Earth. Krishna continued to expand himself in so many forms for 1 year, but by the arrangement of Yogamaya, no one could understand this but Balaram. After 1 moment of Brahma's calculation, Brahma came back to see the fun caused by his stealing the boys and calves. But he was also afraid that he was playing with fire. Krishna was his master, and he had played mischief for fun by taking away Krishna's calves and boys. He was really anxious, so he did not stay away very long. He came back after a moment of his calculation. When Brahma returned, he saw that all the boys, calves, and cows were playing with Krishna in the same way as when he had come upon them, by Krishna's display of Yogamaya. The same pastimes were going on without any change. On the day when Lord Brahma had first come, Baladev could not go with Krishna and the cowherd boys, for it was his birthday, and his mother had kept him back for the proper ceremonial bath called Shantika Snan. Therefore, Lord Baladev was not taken by Brahma at that time. Now, 1 year later, Brahma returned, and because he returned on exactly the same day, Baladev was again kept home for his birthday. This Krishna is pretty clever. Therefore, although this verse mentions that Brahma saw Krishna and all the cowherd boys, Baladev was not mentioned. It was 5 or 6 days earlier that Baladev had inquired from Krishna about the extraordinary affection of the cows in cowherd men. But now, when Brahma returned, Brahma saw all the calves and cowherd boys playing with Krishna as expansions of Krishna, but he did not see Baladev. As in the previous year, Lord Baladev did not go to the woods on the day Lord Brahma appeared there. Text 41. Lord Brahma thought, whatever boys and calves there were in Gokula, I have kept them sleeping on the bed of my mystic potency, and to this very day they have not yet risen again. Purport. For 1 year, Lord Brahma kept the calves and boys lying down in a cave by his mystic power. Therefore, when Brahma saw Lord Krishna still playing with all the cows and calves, he began trying to reason about what was happening. What is this, he thought. Maybe I took those calves and cowherd boys away, but now they have been taken from that cave. Is this what has happened? Has Krishna brought them back here? Then, however, Lord Brahma saw that the cows and boys he had taken were still in the same mystic Maya into which he had put them. Thus he concluded that the calves and cowherd boys now playing with Krishna were different from the ones in the cave. He could understand that although the original calves and boys were still in the cave where he had put them, Krishna had expanded himself, and so the present demonstration of calves and boys consisted of expansions of Krishna. They have the same features, the same mentality, and the same intentions, but they were all Krishna. Text 42. A similar number of cows and calves have been playing with, a similar number of boys and calves have been playing with Krishna for 1 whole year, yet they are different from the ones illusioned by my mystic potency. Who are they? Where did they come from? Purport. Although appearing like calves, cows, and cowherd boys, these were all Vishnu. Actually, they were Vishnu Tattva, not Jiva Tattva. Brahma was surprised. The original cowherd boys and cows, he thought, are still where I put them last year. So who is it that is now keeping company with Krishna exactly as before? Where have they come from? Brahma was surprised that his mystic power had been neglected. Without touching the original cows and cowherd boys kept by Brahma, Krishna had created another assembly of cows and boys who were all expansions of Vishnu Tattva. Thus Brahma's mystic power was superseded. 43. Thus Lord Brahma, thinking and thinking for a long time, tried to distinguish between those 2 sets of boys who were each separately existing. He tried to understand who was real and who was not real, but he couldn't understand it at all. Purport. Brahma was puzzled. The original boys and calves are still sleeping as I have kept them, he thought, But another set is here playing with Krishna. How has this happened? Brahma could not grasp what was happening. Which boys were real and which boys were not real. Brahma was unable to come to any definite conclusion. He pondered the matter for a long while. How can there be two sets of calves and cows at the same time? Have the boys and calves here been created by Krishna? Or has Krishna created the ones lying asleep? Or are both merely creations of Krishna? Brahma thought about the subject in many different ways. After I go to the cave and see that the boys and calves are still there, does Krishna go take them away and put them here so that I can come here and see them? And does Krishna then take them from here and put them there? Brahma could not figure out how there could be two sets of calves and cowherd boys exactly alike. Although thinking and thinking, he could not understand it at all. 44. Thus, because Lord Brahma wanted to mystify the all-pervading Lord Krishna, who can never be mystified, but who, on the contrary, mystifies the entire universe, he himself was put into bewilderment by his own mystic power. Purport. Brahma wanted to bewilder Krishna, who bewilders the entire universe. The whole universe is under Krishna's mystic power. Mama Maya Duratyaya reminds me of the kid who thinks that they're getting away with something, but the parents are watching the whole thing and understands everything. And kid's sitting there like a big smile and says, "Yeah, we got you now. You got you covered, you know." Mm-hmm. But the parents, they know what's going on. The result was that Brahma himself was mystified, just as one who wants to kill another may himself be killed. In other words, Brahma was defeated by his own attempt. In a similar position are the scientists and philosophers who want to overcome the mystic power of Krishna. Oh, he never misses a beat with the scientists and philosophers, eh? They challenge Krishna, saying, "What is God? We can do this and we can do that." But the more they challenge Krishna in this way, the more they are implicated in suffering. The lesson here is that we should not try to overcome Krishna. Rather, instead of endeavoring to surpass him, we should surrender to him. Sarvadharman purityaja mamekam sharanam braja. Instead of defeating Krishna, Brahma himself was defeated, for he could not understand what Krishna was doing. Since Brahma, the chief person within this universe, was so bewildered, what is to be said of so-called scientists and philosophers? Sarvadharman purityaja mamekam sharanam braja. We should give up all our tiny efforts to defy the arrangement of Krishna. I'll repeat that in case anybody objects. I won't. Okay. All right. We should give up all our tiny efforts to defy the arrangement of Krishna. Instead, whatever arrangements he proposes, we should accept. This is always better, for this will make us happy. The more we try to defeat the arrangement of Krishna, the more we become implicated in Krishna's Maya. Daivyesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. But one who has reached the point of surrendering to the instructions of Krishna, mameva ye prapadyante, is liberated, free from Krishna Maya. Mayametam tadantite. The power of Krishna is just like a government that cannot be overcome. First of all, there are laws and then there is a police power, and beyond that is military power. Therefore, what is the use of trying to overcome the power of the government? Similarly, what is the use of trying to challenge Krishna? From the next verse, it is clear that Krishna cannot be defeated by any kind of mystic power. If one gets even a little power of scientific knowledge, one tries to defy God. But actually, no one is able to bewilder Krishna. When Brahma, the chief person within the universe, tried to bewilder Krishna, he himself was bewildered and astonished. This is the position of the conditioned soul. Brahma wanted to mystify Krishna, but he himself was mystified. The word Vishnum is significant in this verse. Vishnu pervades the entire material world, whereas Brahma merely occupies one subordinate post. Yasyaika nifvishita kala bhatavalambhya jivanti loma bilaja jaganandanataha. Brahma Samhita 5:48. The word nataha, which refers to Lord Brahma, is plural, because there are innumerable universes and innumerable Brahmas. Brahma is but a tiny force. This was exhibited in Dwarka when Krishna called for Brahma. One day when Brahma came to see Krishna at Dwarka, the doorman, at Krishna's request, asked, "Which Brahma are you?" Later, when Brahma inquired from Krishna whether this meant there was more than one Brahma, Krishna smiled and at once called for many Brahmas from many universes. The four-headed Brahma of this universe then saw innumerable other Brahmas coming to see Krishna and offered their respects. Some of them had 10 heads, some had 20, some had 100, and some had 1,000,000 heads. It all fit in one room. Upon seeing this wonderful exhibition, the four-headed Brahma became nervous and began to think of himself as no more than a mosquito in the midst of many elephants. Therefore, what can Brahma do to bewilder Krishna? I'll give you this is a personal experience. You know, Vaisheshika Prabhu and I have been doing a vrat in Kartik in Govardhan for the last 17 years. And we read Prabhupada's books, different books, every year different. So 2 years ago, we decided if we could read, because we knew about how much we could cover, because we've been doing it for like 15 years by that time. So we thought if we could read the whole third canto, because third canto is a very big canto, and it's got very complicated verses and long purports, and it takes a long time to read the third canto. We're trying to do this, mind you, in 30 days, or less, 28, 30, 29 days. So we thought from our experience, if we could get through the third canto, that would be good. Because we're reading out loud like this, right? Not sitting and reading, but we're reading out loud each word, carefully. So then, what happened? We got about halfway through the month and we finished the third canto. And then we looked at each other and we thought, he picked up the book, he went like this, to all of us, and he went like this, and he said, look at how thin that page is. How long does it take to read that one page? What to speak of, and then he put 2 volumes like this. So we went and we just decided, okay, this is Krishna's arrangement, and we started to read. And we got through the whole 4th canto as well. And at the end, we had to go a little faster because to get to the end. At the end, we were doing 7 hours a day, 200 pages a day. And when we finished, we all sat there were about 25 or 26 of us, and we just looked at each other, and we were in another space, literally, and nobody could move. And we didn't want to move. We wanted to stay there forever. It was so mystic. It's like time which had just been expanded. So I thought, every time I hear this pastime of all the Brahmas coming and these questions that all come out from materialist people, how's it possible, so many people coming in this space? Well, this is, Krishna can do anything. When Jiva Goswami says in the Tattva Sandarbha, if you can actually grasp this concept and accept it fully, achintya, the achintya Shakti of Krishna, that he can actually do anything, then when you hear the pastimes, everything changes. You may think, oh yes, this is a nice story, and the sages are telling it in a nice way, so give us an idea of how Krishna, no, it's actually Krishna able to do everything. Therefore, what can Brahma do to bewilder Krishna? Text 45. As the darkness of snow on a dark night, and the light of a glowworm in the light of day have no value, the mystic power of an inferior person who tries to use it against a person of great power is unable to accomplish anything. Instead, the power of that inferior person is diminished. Purport. When one wants to supersede a superior power, one's own inferior power becomes ludicrous. Just as a glowworm in the daytime and snow at night have no value, Brahma's mystic power became worthless in the presence of Krishna. For greater mystic power condemns inferior mystic power. On a dark night, the darkness produced by snow has no meaning. The glowworm appears very important at night, but in the daytime, its glow has no value. You can't even see it. Or the stars in the sky. Sun comes out, you can't even see the stars. They're there. You can't see them. The glowworm appears very important at night. Whatever little value it has is lost. Similarly, Brahma became insignificant in the presence of Krishna's mystic power. Krishna's Maya was not diminished in value, but Brahma's Maya was condemned. Therefore, one should not try to exhibit one's insignificant opulence before a greater power. 46. Then, while Lord Brahma looked on, all the calves and boys tending them immediately appeared to have complexions the color of bluish rain clouds and to be dressed in yellow silken garments. Purport. While Brahma was contemplating, all the calves and cowherd boys immediately transformed into Vishnu Murtis, having bluish complexions and wearing yellow garments. Brahma was contemplating his own power and the immense, unlimited power of Krishna. But before he could come to a conclusion, he saw this immediate transformation. 47 and 48. All those personalities had 4 arms, holding conch shell, disc, mace, and lotus flower in their hands. They wore helmets on their heads, earrings on their ears, and garlands of forest flowers around their necks. On the upper portion of the right side of their chests was the emblem of the goddess of fortune. Furthermore, they wore armlets on their arms and the Kaustuba gem around their necks, which was marked with 3 lines, like a conch shell, and bracelets on their wrists. With bangles on their ankles, ornaments on their feet, and sacred belts around their waists, they all appeared very beautiful. Purport. All the Vishnu forms had 4 arms with conch shell and other articles, but these characteristics are also possessed by those who have attained Sarupya Mukti in Vaikuntha. and who consequently have forms exactly like the form of a Lord. However, these Vishnu forms, appearing before Lord Brahma, also possessed the mark of Srivats and the Kaustuba gem, which are special characteristics possessed only by the Supreme Lord Himself. This proves that all these boys and calves were in fact directly expansions of Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, not merely His associates of Vaikuntha. Vishnu Himself is included within Krishna. And this is a very important point, because the impersonalists and also other philosophers think that Krishna came from Vishnu, because Vishnu has 4 arms and Krishna only has 2. So they think Vishnu must be superior to Krishna. So in order to, definitively show Brahma, all of the forms had the same features as Krishna, as Vishnu. And Brahma, he's smart. He knows all these things, He couldn't. Okay. All the opulences of Vishnu are already present in Krishna, and consequently for Krishna to demonstrate so many Vishnu forms was actually not very astonishing. The Srivats mark is described by the Vaishnava Toshini as being a curl of fine yellow hair on the upper portion of the right side of Lord Vishnu's chest. This mark is not for ordinary devotees. It is a special mark of Vishnu or Krishna. Text 49, here we go. Every part of their bodies, from their feet to the top of their heads, were fully decorated with fresh tender garlands of tulsi leaves, offered by devotees engaged in worship of the Lord, worshiping the Lord by the greatest pious activities, namely hearing and chanting. The greatest pious activities, namely hearing and chanting. Purport. The word buri, punyavat, arpitai, is significant in this verse. These forms of Vishnu were worshipped by those who had performed pious activities, sukriti, for many births, and who were constantly engaged in devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Bhakti, devotional service, is the engagement of those who have performed highly developed pious activities. The accumulation of pious activities has already been mentioned elsewhere in Srimad-Bhagavatam 10:12-11, where Shukadeva Goswami says, Itam satam brahmasukhanubhutya dasyam gatanam paradaivatenam maya shritanam naradarakena sakam vijaru kritapunya punjaha. Those who are engaged in self-realization, appreciating the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, and those engaged in devotional service, accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Master, as well as those who are under the clutches of Maya, thinking the Lord an ordinary person, cannot understand that certain exalted personalities, after accumulating volumes of pious activities, are now playing with the Lord in friendship as cowherd boys. In our Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, there is a tamal tree that covers an entire corner of the courtyard. Before there was a temple, the tree was lying neglected, but now it has developed very luxuriantly, covering the whole corner of the courtyard. This is a sign of Buri Punya. Those Vishnu forms, by their pure smiling, which resembled the increasing light of the moon, and by their sidelong glances of their reddish eyes, created and protected the desires of their own devotees, as if by the modes of passion and goodness. Purport. Those Vishnu forms blessed the devotees with their clear glances and smiles, which resembled the increasingly full light of the moon. Shreyak Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. As maintainers, they glanced upon their devotees, embracing them and protecting them by smiling. Their smiles resembled the mode of goodness, protecting all the desires of the devotees. And the glancing of their eyes resembled the mode of passion. Actually, in this verse, the word raja means not passion, but affection. In the material world, rajaguna is passion, but in the spiritual world, it is affection. In the material world, affection is contaminated by rajaguna and tamaguna, but in the Shuddhasattva, the affection that maintains the devotees is transcendental. The word swakartanam refers to great desires. This means that when you go back to the spiritual world, you don't lose anything. Sometimes materialistic persons think the concept of going back to the material spiritual world is horrible because they'll have to leave behind what they have. But actually they keep everything and then some. The word sakartanam refers to great desires. As mentioned in this verse, the glance of Lord Vishnu creates the desires of the devotees. A pure devotee, however, has no desires. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami comments that because the desires of devotees whose attention is fixed on Krishna have already been fulfilled, the Lord's sidelong glances create variegated desires in relation to Krishna and devotional service. In the material world, desire is a product of Rajagun and Tamagun, but desire in the spiritual world gives rise to a variety of everlasting transcendental service. Thus the word swakartanam refers to eagerness to serve Krishna. In Vrindavan there is a place where there was no temple, but a devotee desired, let there be a temple, and seva, devotional service. Therefore, what was once an empty corner has now become a place of pilgrimage. Such are the desires of a devotee. So I will stop here. Text 51. Hare Krishna. A little more than an hour. So now we're coming to the special time, although what can be more special than hearing Bhagavatam directly from Prabhupada? But anyway, called our open mic session. Anything that you heard that stuck in your mind or that you want to reflect upon or discuss further or inquire about, please be our guests. Yes. Vijay Govinda.
I'm famous for my mumbling, so I'll do my best to enunciate. I have a couple of reflections and actually two questions as well.
Please.
I was hearing about Balaram. I was really quite joyful because it reminded me of two stories from Bhagavatam. One was when Gokul Kumar met Krishna for the first time, and they both fainted. When Krishna hugged him, he fainted, and all the residents were completely bewildered, and they thought Calves had probably sent some kind of demon.
They thought Gokul Kumar was the rascal.
Yeah, some kind of rascal, and they were all completely, even Anandamaharaj, it wasn't showing any signs of understanding what was happening.
Yeah.
But it was Balaram was the pillar of strength who came along, and he picked Krishna up and said, like, okay, get it together.
No, what he did was, I edited the book, I'll give the detail. What Balaram did, he understood the situation, that Krishna was actually so much overwhelmed with his love for Gopakumar, because Gopakumar had just come back to the spiritual world, that he fainted. So Lord Balaram took the hands of Gopakumar and, wiped the body of the Lord.
Okay.
And then took the hands, Balaram took his hands and had him pick Krishna up with his own, with Gopakumar's hands.
Okay.
And then that's when Krishna woke up.
Okay. But it was also a story a little later on in the Rasayan section.
Yes.
Where Ingazagasura comes and all the damsels are all going to commit suicide and they're going to drown themselves of complete bewilderment, and then again Balaram comes to the rescue.
Yeah.
And says, "Come on, Krishna, if you don't get your act together, you'll be the one that's sorry in the end, because these residents will actually
they'll all die.
They'll die, and you'll be the one that's so stop playing around." And so just reflecting here again, when Balaram eventually spotted there was something wrong, he acts as the older brother, which is really, really lovely.
Yes, correct.
The other one was, and it sort of came from the understanding that if devotees are qualified at the time to leave our body, we don't go directly to Goloka Vrindavan, but we go to Vrajabhumi.
Yes.
Right. And so when I was reading or listening to the story, I was thinking about that. So is it another understanding of this in this story, that amongst these mothers, whether they be cows or actual paternal mothers, that some of them would have been conditioned souls, having left their previous bodies and taken part in Vrajabhumi, and that was Krishna, meeting Krishna for the first time. Because we understand that they'll associate and learn the culture first of all, and then at some point they actually get to meet.
No, because those forms were Krishna. They weren't forms that came from the... Are you talking about the forms that Krishna expanded, or which ones are you talking about?
When the mothers actually get to embrace Krishna rather than their child, so they've been in Vrindavan obviously for some time, they've learned the culture of Krishna.
Oh, you're talking about the mother?
Yeah, when the mother actually gets to meet their son, who's now actually Krishna, is that some of those mothers potentially...
It's possible.
Conditioned souls who are
it's possible. It's possible. Not likely, but it's possible.
Okay. It was explained to me once that when we come to Vrajabhumi, that we will learn the culture, but at some point,
yes, it's possible.
You're introduced to Krishna.
Whenever Krishna comes into a universe, there are some conditioned souls who join and get trained. Yes.
Okay.
It's possible. I've never read that in relationship to that pastime, but it's theoretically possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other reflection was just on the inconceivability of Krishna. One of my favourite stories in relation to that, I only go to the conclusion of it because you're probably all familiar with it, but the story of the cobbler and the Brahmin.
Yes.
And I always love it. So anytime I think about inconceivable, I just think of a seed. And immediately, and even right in front of our lives, we can see a seed and see what it can become. And then, if that's possible, which is a very small little part of Krishna's energy, then why are we so bewildered that it can't be inconceivable?
Yes. I heard Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu use that same analogy to describe how it is that we can't see Krishna, even though he's the source of everything. Because when the seed of the universe, or seed of anything, any plant, when the plant comes and is fully developed, you can no longer see the seed. So even though Krishna is the seed, gives the seed of the whole universe, you can't see it. Even Brahma couldn't see it. When he went down off the lotus flower to search for his source, he couldn't see it, because Krishna had expanded the universe and he could no longer see him. Or another way of looking at it, I heard yesterday, was that cotton, you get the cotton from the plant and it's a little fluffy ball of white cotton, and that's how we view cotton. That's what we think is cotton. And then when they make it into thread, you can no longer see the cotton. And then when they make the thread into the cloth, you can no longer see the thread or the cotton. So from our conditioned position, we can't see.
explanation, that we enough intelligence to understand the concept, but we're not actually able to conceive of it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, if you can understand that concept, you're miles ahead of most people in the material world. So I feel happy about that.
Two questions as well. You was talking about the super soul in the beginning of the purport, and it made me think of a question that I've had in my mind for some time and haven't had it answered. So we understand there's no super soul in the spiritual realm. The super soul only assists us or comes with us while we go into the material world. So what to speak of Nitya Siddhas who come to this world? Did they have Parama with Prabhupada or Nitya Siddhas who eternally liberated souls who come to this world? Did they have super soul with them?
No. There's Krishna's outside of them.
Okay.
Because they come with Krishna.
Okay. Krishna manifests himself outside.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And the soul, the super soul, is withdrawn back into Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is eternal, but the super soul, they're also eternal, but they're inside the body, so they're not manifested externally, eternally.
Yeah. So
and when we're in the spiritual world, we don't need a super soul.
Sure.
Because Krishna's there in front of us, and we have spiritual bodies and spiritual minds and spiritual intelligences that know what to do without having to be reminded by Krishna.
So in the same way, the Nitya Siddhas are not in the material world while they're in the material world.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. The last question is around Brahma, how he actually gets to meet Krishna in Vraja. Is it because it's Vrajabhumi, or does he actually get to meet Vasudeva Krishna? Like, how does he actually get as a demigod? How does he get to meet?
Well, he gets to meet Krishna, but then, in order to kind of, how do you say this? Show Brahma something that he can relate to, that also blows his mind, and shows him kind of what he needs to see in order to be able to understand that this is his Lord. Then he shows him all these Vishnu forms. So in a sense he doesn't see Krishna, but in another sense he does, because it's Krishna shows him that this little cowherd boy is actually him. Okay. So yes, he does have that capacity.
He was qualified to go into Vraja. That was my understanding, that he wasn't.
Yes, he's in Vraja.
Okay.
He's in Vraja. Yeah.
That's the end of my questions.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Nimai Pandit.
Once completely stunned by Vijay's question. To me, the whole subject matter is just astonishing. You know, when you first start hearing Bhagavatam, so many questions keep coming up again and again and again, and then when you hear devotees' reflections on what's being read, it becomes so astonishing that there's no it seems like any question that comes up, Krishna automatically facilitates the answer to come along as well, just by the process of hearing, you know.
Yep.
And so I'm completely... Thanks, Vijay. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, it was very nice. Because Krishna, it says, Yayatam mam prapadyante tangstatai bhavajamiham, according to the ability of the soul to understand or to want to understand, then Krishna reciprocates accordingly. So this Yayatam mam prapadyante tangstatai bhavajamiham, it's in effect from the very beginning to the very end.
Yeah.
From the material world to the spiritual world and the highest, relationships with Krishna, it's the same principle. Krishna is reciprocating with the qualification and the desires of the soul to know. And then the soul gets to ask the question in a setting in which the questions can be answered, and not all settings are the questions answered to the same degree, in the same way, and therefore sometimes Krishna inspires those questions that haven't been answered for a long time, and they get answered in the proper company, at the proper moment.
Sometimes I only have to go through the process of formulating the question properly.
Yes.
When I go through the process of actually formulating the question properly,
Yes.
then Paramatma always sends it in some class and some.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Therefore, two things are condemned in the spiritual process: blind following and absurd inquiries. Yeah. Or as we used to say, as teachers used to say in school, ask a stupid question and you'll get a stupid answer.
So I was on this topic of Lord Brahma. Has always fascinated me. You said something the other day, which is kind of to do with what you were saying about when Lord Brahma leaves the lotus, you still can't find Krishna, the source. So the discussion was that Lord Brahma has a material body, and his source of birth was material. So this lotus springs from Vishnu's navel, and is still attached to Vishnu when I'm assuming. I've never read exactly that it is, but I'm assuming. So at what point does something become material? Because
it's called Hiranyagarbha. The lotus flower is the universal form of the Lord, which is the external form of the Lord. He keeps his spiritual form, but he also has an external form, which is the material universe. And it's an imaginary form in the sense that if you were to step back from it far enough to be able to see the whole thing, you wouldn't see Krishna standing like this, you know. It's not that the trees or the hairs on his body, and then you would look back farther enough and you see his form with trees sticking out of it, you know. It's not like that. It's an imaginary form. It's a concept, a spiritual concept that allows the mind to go from material conception to spiritual conception, that allows the mind to consider the supreme absolute truth, or God, as a person. Because in the beginning, the soul can't conceive of the source as a person. So when he hears and meditates upon this part of the Bhagavatam, in which the hairs are the trees are the hairs of the body, the clouds are hair on the head, you know, the rivers are the veins in the body, and all the other parts of the body are described, you know, in an allegorical form or simile. And that allows the conception, the spiritual conception that God is a person and has a form, a personal form, to enter into the mind. And then, of course, as the Bhagavatam proceeds, then eventually you get to see Krishna face to face through the 10th canto, the form of the 10th canto. So what's the dynamics of that, the physics, the spiritual physics of that, that's not such an easy thing to understand. I mean, we understand that, you know, that's the visarga. That's the visarga. There's the sarga and the visarga. So the sarga is the original creation created within the mind of Mahavishnu. And there, the blueprint, everything is created in his mind before it actually comes out and manifests itself externally in the spiritual sky as the material creation, cosmic manifestation. So there's subtle forms of earth and water and fire and air and ether, subtle forms of the different senses for acquiring knowledge, senses, working senses, and all the other part, the mind and the intelligence and the false ego. So then that transforms, those energies transform from subtle to gross into the material energy. It's a transformation of the subtle, and the Lord's mind is the most subtle, and then it gradually transforms. In some places, our acharyas describe that the Brahma Jyoti actually transforms into the material energy.
Right.
Yeah. And in some places it says that the material energy is actually eternal, but it comes in and out of the body of the Lord. So therefore, in the ultimate sense, there's nothing material. In the ultimate sense, everything is actually spiritual. But it's because of our forgetfulness and our lack of consciousness or ability to see it as spiritual, it appears to be material.
Because I'd always understood that, say, like we take the case of the universes, as they leave the skin pores of Mahavishnu, that at that point of separation is where it transmutes into a
No, those are the
material.
seeds. Those are the seeds of the universe, and they come up into the accommodating chamber of the material energy.
Oh, right.
Yes.
I had a lovely example a while ago, and I'm not sure if I mixed that up. It was either a river and a river bank, or the sea and the sand, and that sometimes the sea comes in.
Yes.
So the sand or the river bank is the marginal. So sometimes it's spiritual, sometimes it's material, but it's all the same energy.
Well, that's the marginal energy that's a living being. But the external energy is eternal. The marginal energy is eternal, and the internal energy is eternal. But the external energy is not always manifested in forms, but the external energy is also eternal, and it goes in and out of the body of the Lord. Therefore, when the soul goes inside the body of the Lord, the external energy goes in there also, and the how do we say this? It's like a package. The subtle bodies of the living beings stay intact the way they were at the last creation. So then when they come out again, that package, it comes out like a package, like it's got this subtle energy, and then when it touches, the glance of the Lord, in which the souls also, the same souls, they come out of the material energy, but they come out just with that package there. It's very subtle. It's more subtle than the subtle material energy appears in the material world. This is the part of the sarga. It's not part of the visarga. The visarga we were talking about before, the lotus flower and Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, that's the visarga. When Lord Brahma takes that energy, which is the lotus flower, is actually the Hiranyagarbha. It's the subtle form of the material world, and then Brahma engineers it, and then remember when it describes how the planets are in the stem. They come from the stem, but they don't stay in the stem. Sometimes devotees misunderstand that we're all in the stem of the lotus, but it's not like that. When it comes out of the stem, then it becomes the lotus flower, and that becomes what Brahma uses in order to engineer all the planets and the forms of living beings. So a way of looking at it, I meditated on this pretty deeply over many, many years. And the way of looking at it that give us a better way of visualizing what's happening is that the codes of information, that cause the elements to combine together to make a specific form. Like, a man and a woman meet, and then the seed gets put into the body of the woman. Within the body of the woman, the energy creates the shape, creates like a little factory in there, or human body factory in there. And it's the same. The process of creation is the same. The energy is there, and not all the energy is used. Just like in the body of the mother, not all the energy in the body of the mother it doesn't take all the energy of the body of the mother to create the baby, otherwise there would be no mother afterwards. But there's a placenta that comes out with it. So the whole thing, the universal creation, is the same in principle. So therefore you can imagine, you can visualize a male and female of any species get together and produce a third body. The information content in that form must have come from the male and female. Not only that, but the form that is created cannot have more information content than the source. This completely destroys the evolutionary theory. So therefore, you just keep tracing it back, as Prabhupada say, I've got mother, father, you've got mother, father, everyone's got mother, father, they have mother and father, they have mother and fathers. You keep tracing it back, and the information contact that creates the whole thing must be contained in the body of Krishna, the body of Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu is inside the body of Krishna. So therefore, all the information content is within the body of Krishna. Therefore, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore we worship him. Because everything that we have and everything that potential that we have, is all made possible by him. So if we're not grateful for that, then who are we? What are we?
Thank you.
Just thinking that something I've been reading for years and only recently starting to understand. Prabhupada talks about how difficult it is to understand how yogis try for many, many lifetimes, and how severe it is, and even the 100 successful fire sacrifices to become Brahma, just the amount of effort that goes into actually trying to come to understanding, and then just literally how blessed we are. You ask any Bhakta 3 months in the temple, who's God? Krishna.
Yes.
And even though you don't understand the purport of that yet, you don't fully understand the purport, you actually already have the destination.
We've been given the ultimate understanding.
Yeah. It's becoming stronger and stronger in my heart all the time, and it's just incredible. Even though we're hearing this, we haven't quite, and our only hesitation is we haven't understood it fully yet.
Well, the thing is, whoever we are, whatever we are, we're infinitesimal compared to Krishna. So we can't. Sometimes devotees think that inconceivable means that you can't understand him at all, but it's not like that. It's just that you can't understand everything about Krishna. No one can understand everything about Krishna. But we can understand enough. But I appreciate this point. I've meditated on this point also a lot, that, when we met Prabhupada, just by the sound of his voice, and you read his books, how many of us have come to this position of being here together, hearing about Krishna genuinely, with affection and genuine curiosity and devotion, unless we came into contact with Prabhupada's book. No one. And that was Prabhupada's plot, to uplift human society by the mass distribution of his books. And we may think, well, yeah, but why not so many devotees and not many devotees? Oh, I'll tell you, there's been so many seeds planted, we don't even know what's going to happen in a few generations from now. And Prabhupada explained to us that, the general, we don't have details, but the general principle is that for 5,000 years, the Krishna conscious movement expands, and then for 5,000 years it starts to dwindle. And at that end of that 10,000 year, which is like the golden streak in the Kali Yuga, then you don't want to be around. I mean, look what's going on now, and it's not even the whole thing yet. We're still in the Sandhya. We're still in the in-between, in between the Kali Yuga and Dwapara Yuga.
As I mentioned earlier on about the Raj Bhumi, in other words, the place Krishna's pastimes are happening, on an earthly atmosphere, and it's happening constantly. But and I've been thinking about this concept quite a lot. But the more I start to think about it and learn about the activities, I thought, well, actually, ISKCON is no different. It's another earthly platform by which we're learning to hear.
You don't have to go further than Prabhupada's purports. We just read it. It's at the beginning of the 10th canto. That the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is an incarnation of Krishna.
Well, the understanding is starting to emerge just like a little bit.
Yeah.
Just this is the training.
And here we are, in Hode Farm, between Folkestone and look what we're hearing about. What we're all going, yeah, right. Oh yeah, we're getting realizations. I mean, it's not ordinary. Like you said, yogis can go for hundreds of thousands of years and not understand what Prabhupada has given us immediately.
If you don't mind me add one more thing. It's just some realization that's been sort of coming, but I guess as a younger devotee, I quite often focused on that, what we call sort of clearing an artist, or thinking ourselves unqualified, or it's not altogether a wrong idea, because it makes us humble and helps us that. But I've also just recently been thinking, and the idea is getting a lot stronger in my heart, that there's no problem we have, no issue we have, no conditioning we have that's stronger than the holy name. So just by really, really hearing and chanting properly, our problems are insignificant.
Well, even the most advanced devotees, this is the mystic aspect of devotional service, that the more qualified you become, the less qualified you feel.
Yeah.
This is the first verse of the verses that are chanted by devotees who finish their deity worship. It goes, Matsamo nasti patmatma naparadi nakaschana parihare pilajjame kim bruve purushottama. O Purushottama, no sinner or offender is as bad as I am. How can I describe my shame? With that mentality, you can receive the full mercy of Krishna. When Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis met Lord Chaitanya, they revealed to him their feelings that to deliver them would be more difficult than to deliver Jagai and Madai, because they were so much more sinful than Jagai and Madai. Jagai and Madai were considered the most sinful persons in the whole world at that time because of what they were doing. But so then when they met Lord Chaitanya again in Puri later on, and they were all with his eternal associates. Of course, they are also eternal associates, but these are the ones that were with Lord Chaitanya in Puri, Ramananda Roy, Swarup Damodar, the most intimate devotees. And when they met Rupa and Sanatan, and they heard what they were writing and how they were thinking, then Sri Damodar said, what is this? He said, there's no possibility that this person could write what he wrote unless he had received your full mercy. How is that? And then Lord Chaitanya, he became a little embarrassed. He said, yes, I met them in Payag, and I consider them to be the most qualified, so therefore I gave them my full mercy. And then Rupa Goswami was writing this drama, and he was, being examined. His manuscript was being examined by, Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy were the top literary experts, and Lord Chaitanya's there watching the whole thing. And then Lord Chaitanya then admitted to them, yes, I met them before and I thought they were the most qualified, so I gave them my full mercy. And then everyone just became ecstatic. Tears flowed, and because they realized that they were witnessing, the bestowal of full mercy by Lord Chaitanya. Another aspect of that is that Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami are manjaris in the spiritual world, so they're actually younger, and they came young later, so they were the youngest, the newest at least, and so that whole pastime was like, exemplifying that principle, and they were asking the most confidential things of Rupa and Sanatana. This was Vishaka and Lalita in front of Radharani are asking the most intimate details from Rupa Manjari and Vilas Manjari. So that's...
Does that correlate with their childish innocence? They can ask what they want?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, pretty wonderful. You have to go?
My name's outside.
Oh no. No, all right. But I'll see you soon. Okay? I'll be here for 3 weeks. Want to see you again at least 55 more times. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Very nice to see you again.
Thank you.
And very nice to see you here and doing this after all these years.
I'm a stickler.
Proof of the pudding.
Exactly.
Proof,
Good teacher.
proof of the pudding. Hare Krishna. Good heart.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Bye-bye. Hare Krishna.
Me, mine, I've been hugging this thing else. Any words of wisdom from the corner there?
I have a question.
Please, please. We've been all waiting for you to speak, Radha. We're
It's not
just...
really a question about the reading per se, but since there's this pause, I'll just ask it anyway because it's really... these readings are wonderful, but it's... I was just discussing with Stamba Bhavaprabhu today how wonderful it is to actually be here in person, and had many reflections, especially from the questions and answers. And sort of, I think I mentioned on the phone when we spoke earlier, pennies that dropped. And I must admit, you've also whetted our appetite. After telling us earlier about the marathon with Vaishasika Prabhu, and I think that was the first time I saw the live readings, was that marathon 2 years ago when you did the third canto. And I just whetted my appetite to wonder what you'll
We're
be
going to be
reading.
reading now?
Yeah.
It's not, we're not completely sure yet, but it's kind of, we're thinking it's going to be, 8th, 9th, and as much as the 10th as we can get through, maybe what Prabhupada did in the 10th. Plus maybe Krishna book. We haven't read the Krishna book in a few years. In these audiobooks I'm doing, Krishna willing, if I stay alive long enough, because this is a big project, you know. Like I was mentioning in the beginning, I don't know if everyone was here, but we're getting now to the point where we've actually recorded on live stream the whole Bhagavatam with the purports and these extraordinary, sessions where the Vaishnavas reflect and whatever. So that's a momentous event when we finish that. When we actually finish that, it'll be completely unique. And in the same vein, I'm doing audiobooks of. Now I'm doing Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I'm on the 22nd chapter of the Madhya Lila, which is teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami. So we're much more than halfway through. And when I go back to Houston in December, then we'll try to finish it next year. Then it has to be edited. It's being edited now while I'm traveling, but it takes a long time to edit that much sound. So then I want to do the Bhagavatam. These are official audiobooks. There won't be other discussions. It'll just be straight reading. There won't be music or, special effects or, changing the voices according to the characters and when the woman talks, she like this, and the demons talk. It's not like that. This is just straight, sober reading, like when we read the books before we talk.
I asked if there any sign of the second Bhagavatam coming out.
Well, they're having a hard time getting the first one done. Oh, you mean the second volume? They're working on the second and third volume, and there must be a reason for this, because I recorded that in 2006, and that's 13 years later, and they still have only got one volume published. And the third volume, see what happened was, the person who was recording for me, he was temporary, and he was a little eccentric, and at one point, everything was recorded. We hadn't quite done all of the overdub, but we did most of the overdub. But then all of a sudden he just stopped. And he hadn't organized the files. The files were all helter-skelter. And the first volume got done, and then the person in the BBT, that person got sick or something and had to stop. And then they didn't have the person to do the next. And just recently, within the last 6 months, we finally got all the files out of the BBT archives, because they were all there, but nobody had put them together. And Vaisheshika Prabhu paid somebody to put them together. And now we have that recording, but they didn't take out the Sanskrit, because I recorded everything, including the Sanskrit, but we decided as a policy not to do the Sanskrit, because you could see how much it would interfere with the hearing if the Sanskrit was there, So that's there, but the Sanskrit's in it. So now the Sanskrit has to be taken out, and Vaisheshika Prabhu paid to sort it all out, and it's also too fast. They sped it up a little bit, and their cutting it's a professional that did it, which is another issue. We don't need professionals to do things. It takes a devotee to do these things, And the second volume was partially edited, and then Janaki, before she left her body, almost finished the editing, and then the person who started the editing and what I'm doing now, he finished that editing, and that got sent to Sweden simultaneously to a person who's coordinating things with Vaisheshika Prabhu, because now he's a full trustee of the BBT. So we're trying to get things done that way. And I don't know how long that's going to take. All I know is when I listen to the first volume, when I listen to things now, I'll give you a sample, shall I? Yes. I'm going to give you 2 samples, right? And I'm not going to tell you what is what. I'm just going to give you 2 samples to listen to the same exact text and tell me which you like best. We call it AB. It's an AB thing. Okay? All right. Oh my gosh. This is weird. Program's not opening.
I've been promoting sales of that book like you wouldn't believe.
What?
I've been promoting sales of that book since...
I believe you. Though now it's come up. Now it came up. I don't know why it didn't open. That's here. It's all here. Okay. So now we have to get to the right place. Okay. Here we go. This is... Okay. I'm going to play this one. Oops. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
This is the first one. And I'm just going to play this for just 2-3 minutes. Then I'm going to play the other one, and I want you to tell me which one you like best. We can take votes. Okay? Oops. The sound's not coming up.
Is the earphones blocking it from coming out? Because I can hear the sound come out of the...
Oh, the sound was coming out of there?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to turn that off. Oh. Okay. That should do it. Okay. Okay. Back to the beginning. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is the principal work on the life and teachings of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the pioneer of a great social and religious movement that began in India about 500 years ago, and that has directly and indirectly influenced the subsequent course of religious and philosophical thinking, not only in India, but throughout the world. That Sri Krishna Chaitanya's influence has spread so far is due in large part to the efforts of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the present work's translator and commentator, and the founder and Acharya, spiritual guide, of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. That's the first one. And this is the second one. Okay. And here we are. This should be the same place, if I'm not mistaken. Ready? Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is the principal work on the life and teachings of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the pioneer of a great social and religious movement that began in India about 500 years ago, and that has directly and indirectly influenced the subsequent course of religious and philosophical thinking, not only in India, but throughout the world. That Sri Krishna Chaitanya's influence has spread so far is due in large part to the efforts of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the present work's translator and commentator, and the founder and Acharya, spiritual guide, of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness.
E for me.
Especially as well.
Mm. B also? Second one? Second one? Everybody? Very interesting. Because this is the second, the first one is... Huh? No, it's pretty much the same, because it's the same cut. This is the foreword of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the cutting is exactly the same. But there's a setting that is supposed to, that was decided by Brahma Muhurta, who is the publisher, he's the pro, and he wanted the voice not to lose its personal or its natural, but at the same time be a little bit enriched. And that was the second one. The first one was straight out of the mic and then cut, and the second one was the same cut, but with that very slight setting, very slight setting. Yes. Yes. Yes, and that's exactly the word. That's exactly the word. That's exactly what we wanted to take. Just a little bit more warmth.
And it seemed to make it more accessible. There was something more relaxed about it, which would draw you in a bit more. You know, the first one was the sound quality was a little cooler.
Yes.
And it had a slight distanced feeling to it.
A little. Very nice. Exactly what I wanted you to say. Because that was our decision also. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to stop now because it's getting after 8 o'clock and we have to start again tomorrow morning early. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here and for participating in daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, which has become, according to some of my God brothers, a movement within a movement to try to revive the taste for hearing directly from Srila Prabhupada and to get that potency that spread the movement all around the world and to revive it so that we can bring more new people with that verve, I think is the word, verve, that Prabhupada gave us, that empowerment. So we'd like to thank all of you. Is there anything from cyberspace?
Only that Rati Manjari agrees that the second one is, she likes them both, but so the second one is...
Really? Hey Rati, thanks. That was the cherry on top. Thanks very much everybody for that. It was a big decision that we made, and now we made the right decision, and thank you very much for participating. Jai. Shri Krishna ki jai. Lord Brahma ki jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow night, same time, 6 o'clock UK time, right here in the live studios at Hode Farm in Olive Tree College. Hare Krishna. Haribol.